Hello, I'm Kevin Gray, Chief Information Officer for the City of Burbank, and I'm here today with Betsy McClinton, Management Services Director for the City of Burbank. Betsy has served as Management Services Director for the City of Burbank since 2013. Prior to becoming the director, she served as the Administrative Officer and Assistant Director over Human Resources beginning in 2007. In management services, Betsy has responsibility for the city's human resources functions, including benefits, classification and compensation, training, employee services, and recruitment and onboarding, as well as risk management, including workers' compensation, environmental health and safety, and liability and insurance. Big job, Betsy. She also serves as the city's chief negotiator, representing the city council in contract negotiations with the city's 6 organized labor groups, and serves as the city's representative on the board of directors for the Authority for California Cities Excess Liability. Betsy has a bachelor's degree in political science from Whittier College and a master's of public administration from USC. She is a member of the California Public Employees Labor Relations Association, the Southern California Public Labor Relations Council, and the Public Agency Risk Management Association. And I'd just like to add that, Betsy is one of several superwomen that I have, that I am blessed to call my colleague, and she's a joy to work with.
Thank you, Kevin, so much. I hope I can live up to that great introduction. So
you do every day. So, Betsy, I have just a couple of questions for you. My first question for you is, what do you see as the biggest challenges to recruiting and retaining employees for the public sector?
So I really see that we have 2 big challenges for us here in the public sector. The first one goes back to 2013 when the state of California passed pension reform and changed pensions for employees on a go-forward basis. And really traditionally in the public sector, we've relied a lot on pensions and the really great benefits that we've been able to offer to attract employees into the public sector. And while we still have great benefits, great compensation, we can't rely quite as heavily on that as we have in the past. So at this point, we really have to ask ourselves, how do we be the employer of choice, right? How do we address really important issues for our employees like work-life balance, right? We think of ourselves as a very traditional employer, but can we be more flexible? Can we do non-traditional things like teleworking? That's become a big issue in the pandemic. How do we make investments in our employees? How do we grow them? So that they have opportunities within the city and want to stay with us for their entire career. At the city, one of the things we focused on is strength-based leaderships. How do we identify employee strengths and then match them in jobs where they can utilize those strengths? That is so key to employee engagement. Really, really important for us to do that. And finally, we want to figure out how to market ourselves better, right? That's not necessarily something that is a strength of ourselves, of the public sector, but in order to attract those employees, we need to tell our story. We need to say why public service, why is that a great thing? So we need to figure out how to market ourselves and get those good candidates into our applicant pool, which really kind of brings me to the second challenge. The first one being how do we become that employer of choice? But the second one is we really need to devote ourselves to inclusivity and diversity. That is the big way we're going to really attract quality candidates. When you look at inclusivity and diversity, one really big thing that they always talk about, that the literature will talk about, is merit-based recruitment, merit-based testing, which is great. Civil service is rooted in that. But even within that system, there are biases that are hidden that if we don't really examine them, we won't realize that they're there, and we won't be able to root them out and really focus on inclusivity and diversity and get the really great workforce into our city that we want to do. So for me, we have to do that. We really need to examine our processes and make sure that we haven't thought that, well, we're inoculated against those biases, when really we should be looking at those things every day as part of our normal work.
I want to follow up with my next question, and that is, Why would one want to work in the public sector?
Why the public sector? I think for me personally, and for so many people who end up in the public sector, you come from it from a place of service. So many of us are service-minded. We want to give back to the communities that we care about. But on top of that, what you find when you go into the public sector is that the work is really, really impactful to those communities. You get to serve and you make a huge impact. The roads you drive on, the sidewalks that you walk on, the parks that your kids play in, the housing that we have for our community, the employment base, all of those things are things that government in general and cities in particular have a huge impact on. And so you are looking for a way to give back to your community, to serve, and to make a really impactful, to do it in a really impactful way. And for me, that's what city government is. And then on top of that, for the people like myself, like so many of us who really like hard, challenging work and like to dig in, the public sector layers a level of complexity on that really good work that doesn't exist in a lot of other places. Everything that we do has to be public. We do all of our work in the public. There's a level of transparency and accountability. We are stewards of the public funds. Everything we do is on behalf of the community, and layering that complexity that we do everything public is so challenging, but it also offers so many opportunities as well. And for me, all of those reasons are what attracted me to public service, and what I think that's the story that we have to tell, right? In order to attract candidates, we have to tell that story and help them understand how impactful and wonderful the work we do is.
Absolutely, and I would like to add that here at the City of Burbank, you and I, we run like 15 entirely different businesses, right? A police department is nothing like a library, is nothing like a utility, is nothing like public works. So it makes the job is so broad, it makes it really, really exciting.
I completely agree, Kevin.
So I want to thank you for your time today. It's always wonderful to talk to you, and today was no different.
Great. Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.